What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Pazza podcast. This one comes after the Derby della Madonnina, which just ended probably about 15, 20 minutes ago. Going to post a little bit of a reaction of that game. Didn't really fall the way of Inter any throughout the entire match, it seemed like. Hitting the bar 3 times, having 3 goals called off. Um, it just didn't seem like it was our day, especially whenever I found out, a couple weeks ago, it didn't seem like it'd be our day that Keefe would be the referee of this match. Um, just seemed like everything was going wrong or was going to go wrong for this match. And yeah, it was one of those. It's been like every Milan derby this season. We maybe haven't played up to our best of our abilities, but we've been the better team. And Milan have taken advantage of just momentary lapses of concentration, which at the top level of football, especially Italian football, I mean, with a coach like Conte Sal, that's kind of his MO to capitalize on these lapses of concentration. And that simply was the difference in the match, the difference in getting 1 point versus 3 points today. Um, it's a little somber, a little bitter. I don't think we're still in a bad position, guys. We still have Napoli to play a head-to-head match. So the rest of the season, or before the end of the season, so not all is lost. This does feel kind of like a punch in the gut, but again, not all is lost. See if I can. Boom. Yeah, not as much of a glare now. But yeah, it's infuriating and a little disappointing, but just gonna have to keep playing the rest of the season and can't drop points really. I've got a tough schedule coming up, but we'll talk about that a little bit after kind of go through the match. Started off strong lineup: Jan Sommer in goal, Benji Pavard, Stefan de Vrij, Bastoni, Dumfries, Barella, Çalhanoğlu, Mkhitaryan, Di Marco, Thuram, Lautaro up top. So pretty much our strongest. The one thing of note for Milan, they did start Kyle Walker, the new signing, who impressed mightily for Milan this match, much to the dismay and demise of Inter. But he kind of was a little bit of a difference maker for Milan here. But um, yeah, starting out in the game, we in the first, I'd say we started out bright. We looked the hungriest at the beginning. Thuram, one thing, I mean, everybody talks about Kyle Walker and how fast he is. I think Bonetti even mentioned in the broadcast about Kyle Walker in training for Milan, how he was blowing past, I think he said a teenager. I don't know. Wasn't a fan of Bonetti on the commentary. Not really a fan of him on the commentary on any game for like a Milan derby. He's a obvious Milan fan, and it kind of skews the way. And some of his talking points are very repetitive from match to match. But Thuram blew past Kyle Walker in the 6th minute. Um, Tried to pull it back for Dumfries, who was in a position more which we'd want Thuram or Lautaro in, a striker's position, and didn't really finish his run. So the layoff from Thuram didn't really find. But we looked hungrier. Lautaro um, was he had a warning shot in the 7th minute to Milan, sorry. Barella, he had a good shot at the top of the box in the 12th minute. So it seemed like we were hungry. It seemed like we were the better team. That Barella shot came from Di Marco crossing it to Thuram, who played it back to Lautaro, who played it brilliantly in the path of Barella. So the warning signs were there. Milan did have 2 corners that came from Pulisic, which we saw in the first derby game this season, driving through the middle of our team and got 2 corners. So from this point, about the 12th to 15th minute, we knew how the game was going to go. Milan was starting after the high press that they started the match with. Kind of looked like they were sitting back a little bit and going to hit us on the counter. And they were like, hey, Inter, we're going to sit 5 in the back, limit your wingbacks, break us down through the middle. And that's kind of how the game went throughout the whole first half. I wrote down in the 17th minute that the game was cagey, which it was. It was that way the whole match. It was a game, like I said, Milan was betting on us not being able to break them down in the middle of the field, and for the most part, that we couldn't. I would say they were successful in that. But Pavard, if he wouldn't have came off, he would have won man of the match, regardless of if Stefan de Vrij, I mean, that equalizer. De Vrij was great, but Pavard, my oh my, first half, one of the best first halves of defending we've seen, or you can ask of any defender. It was brilliant. These last ditch tackles on Leao, really limited Leao, who didn't, kind of irrelevant um, this match, other than that one breakaway. But Pavard was huge, huge. Um, Sliding tackle to prevent Rafael. But at this point, I'd written also after that Milan, they're matching our 5-3-2, which is limiting both Dumfries and DiMarco. They really didn't have any impact on the match, it seemed like. And this was because Milan, in the first half, Musa was playing more as that right wing back when they were in defense. Kyle Walker slid in as like a right center back. Second half, they brought in that young kid, Jimenez, I think, or I'm not really sure, number 20, the younger kid, and he played that right wing back. Musa moved in the midfield. They took off Benacer, but Kyle Walker stayed, and that limited DiMarco and Dumfries. But after this point as well, Thuram, he started right, that run past Kyle Walker, but really that was the only impact, in my opinion, of the match that Thuram really had. Positive impact, I should say. Um, yeah, and then it was just a very cagey first half. We had two goals in the first half disallowed. The first one was Lautaro being offsides, um, which sucked, and then the second one, Barella being offsides for another goal. Uh, Again, like I said before, it just felt like it wasn't our day. Pavard again, though, in the 36th minute, destroyed Rafael Leao, got up and celebrated like he had just scored a goal. We couldn't have asked for more from Pavard in that first half. It was really brilliant. Um, Pavard again in the 41st minute. This was actually the one he celebrated. It was freaking huge throughout that whole first half. It made the huge difference because Milan, they were trying to counter us, which is usually what we do in big matches. And a couple of times they could have hit us on the counter and really exposed us if it wasn't for these last ditch tackles by Pavard. So really saved us in the first half. But inevitably, the goal from Milan came right on the stroke of halftime. Hakan Çalhanoğlu, who we didn't know was going to be back, let alone start, got caught in possession, which isn't very much like him. Very reminiscent of Aslani in that first, or in the Supercopa match against Milan. Just got caught in possession, and it led to the counter. Played Leao through, who cross shot. He was caught in between two minds. Sommer maybe could have done a little better and tried to spill it in a different direction. I don't really put much fault on Sommer there. It's a tough one. And yeah, went right into the path of Tijani Reinders, who all he had to do was kick it to the straight roof of the net, and 1-0 at halftime. Milan. Wouldn't say it was necessarily against the run of play because we created a little bit, but Milan, like I said, had those opportunities potentially on a counter that was stopped by the brilliance of Pavard, but it just wasn't good enough for Inter, and we needed something more. And some thoughts I wrote at half. You just can't let a goal like that right before halftime. That's just something you can't do. Milan, their 5-3-2 was really tough to break down. It really limited, and we've seen this in the past few weeks. Dumfries has exploded, but DiMarco on the left side has really struggled to impact the matches as he was a few months ago. And I wrote Mkhitaryan and DiMarco not playing up for it on that left side. You can maybe say that five-man defense was really limiting them, but it's been consistent over the past few weeks, so something we need to really watch out. Maybe give some more minutes to Zalewski. We'll see. Pavard, I wrote, what more can we say? He was the best player on the pitch in the first half by far. We needed Lautaro to step up, but also Çalhanoğlu and Thuram. Neither of them really impressed in that first half. They just didn't look on it. A lot of players looked fatigued for Inter, which I know we played midweek. Kind of controversially, Inzaghi didn't choose to rotate, and maybe that was a mistake. I don't know. Guys, let me know if you think that was a mistake not to rotate midweek. I mean, who would have guessed they would have got a red card in the 17th minute or whichever it was, Monaco. But, we'd like to have some of these players, I feel like, a little fresher. They didn't look fresh in this match. And I wrote, what will be your counterpunch, Inzaghi? We've talked on the pod before. Dave, when he came on, guest pod, He talked about it, Inzaghi not having a plan B. When you get punched like that, you need to have a good counter punch and plan B, not just like for like substitutions, which we see from Inzaghi week in and week out. Change the game, impact it somehow. Mourinho, I remember that game against Siena, the 4-3 when where Walter Samuel scored. He moved Walter Samuel to center forward. He brought on Arnautovic, who was only 18 at the time. We had Milito. I mean, we had pretty much like 5 people playing forward to try and impact the match at the end of the game. Inzaghi won't do that. He'll leave players in and just make like for like substitutions to keep to that system. He lives and dies by the system. It's respectable as well, but I think you have to be able to impact matches with substitutions and changing the shape a little bit. I don't know. We didn't see that from Inzaghi, it seemed like, in the second half. Lautaro going to the second half, missed opportunity early on, which a couple times as well, Milan hit us on the counterattack in that first 5 minutes of the second half. It seemed like we just weren't going to have any answer. We came out of the second half not looking great. Like I said, Lautaro had a missed opportunity, but Milan were the better team coming out of halftime, which isn't something you typically see from Inzaghi's team. It seemed like we were not up for it. Thuram looked slow. Mkhitaryan looked terrible. It just didn't look good. There was no, like when I'm talking about we're not breaking down from outside, at that point you got to beat them through the middle. And I feel like the game was calling out, screaming out for Zielinski, someone who maybe has that creativity higher up the pitch to break down a team in the middle of the field, or Fratesi, someone who can drive from the midfield and put more bodies in the box. And it just didn't feel like maybe we were going to get that. Second half, we ended up making the subs though. Carlos Augusto came in for Bastoni. Not a real good, impactful performance from Augusto, in my opinion, especially the last in after we scored the equalizer. Just gave away a few balls, gave them a corner. We want to ride that momentum after a goal, and he kind of killed it for us. Helped Milan out by some of those misplaced passes. Jan Bisek came in for Pavard, which at the time, and I still am a little unsure about it. At the time, I was pissed. Pavard, I'd said earlier, best player on the team, on the pitch, either team up to that point. Wasn't sure about that one, but we'll mention Bisek's impact on the match after this here in a minute. Is in Zielinski, instead of being that player to go and try and impact the match further up the pitch, he brought him on for Çalhanoğlu, playing that regista role further away from that compact backline of Milan, which I wasn't a fan of either. Would have liked to maybe have seen Çalhanoğlu either stay on, or if you're going to bring a replacement, you guys don't like him, but Aslani's naturally there. Zielinski should have came on for Mkhitaryan, in my opinion. But Bisek's impact almost was immediate, off the bar in the 66th minute. That was the theme for the next 23 minutes of the match, hitting the post. One thing of note, I mentioned Keefe before the match, and I don't think he did too terrible a job, but in the 73rd minute, Marcus Thuram driving to goal beats Pavlovic. Pavlovic is on his back. Now Teo does come in and win the ball, but if you watch the replay, before Teo even makes impact with the ball or comes close to the ball, Pavlovic trips the back of Thuram. There was no consultation, the whole CBS broadcast, anytime there was something, let's bring in our sports expert, Christina Uncle. Didn't hear that. It looked pretty apparent to me that Pavlovic came through the back of Thuram in the box before Teo won the ball. Guys, let me know what you think. I don't know how long VAR looked at it. Maybe it wasn't that clear and obvious terminology. To me, I'm obviously looking through black and blue goggles. It looked like it should have been at least Keefe brought over to look at it. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but like I said, to me, it looked like at least bring him over to look at it, because Pavlovic did make contact to the back of Thuram's leg before Teo came through. So at this point, it just felt like, we weren't going to get any luck, and it kept going on. He did make two subs again. Inzaghi, Zalewski came on for Di Marco. Fratesi came on for Mkhitaryan. Subs, I wrote at this point, no impact. Zalewski didn't really, when he came on, he lost the ball a couple of times. Just didn't look like he was going to impact the match. Fratesi was being Fratesi. Had a couple of kind of dummies and let through. It just, it wasn't working. And these were all like for like subs. No change of tactics, formation, or anything from Inzaghi. What do they say? Insanity is trying to do the same thing over and over and over and over again, expecting different results. That's kind of, I mean, we know Inzaghi is insane. He's psycho. You could hear it on the sideline today. But when you're battling for a scudetto and trying to get all 3 points, you can't be as stubborn. You got to adapt, change, do something different. 82nd minute, Thuram off the post from another corner, came off his knee. At that point, like I said, it felt like nothing was going to happen. But in the 90th minute, 90-minute plus two, I think, stoppage time minutes, cross from, I thought originally it was Barella, but when I was listening after the match for a minute, it seemed like Bonetti said Bisek. Cross after ball recycled around a little bit, cross back into the box. Zalewski, beautiful timed run. And if he would have gone for goal, I wouldn't have faulted him. But it was just a brilliant trap back into the path of Stefan de Vrij, another defender goal that we've gotten this season, and it was huge. And it was one of those, like I'd mentioned about Carlos Augusto, like we had the momentum at that point. There was 3 minutes left. We got the ball back too after the kickoff, not too long after that. And that momentum should ride you into at least another opportunity, which we unfortunately didn't get. And the game ended 1-1. Stefan de Vrij saved us from dropping all 3 points, 1-1 with our crosstown rivals Milan. We haven't beaten them in 3 matches now. It's a tough one to swallow. Hopefully Napoli drop points to Roma. Like I said, we still have a game in hand, and we still have Napoli. The rest of the season, we get to play Napoli one more time head to head, so there's still opportunities there. But this one hurts. This one definitely got away from us, I think. I think we were maybe the better team. Draw probably is a fair result, though, the way Milan played Inzaghi's tactics almost against him. It seemed like Inzaghi, that's 3 matches, like I said, he hasn't beaten Milan. Kind of cause for concern. The guys don't look up for the derbies like we did a couple years ago when we won 6 in a row. Just some full-time thoughts. Initially, like I said, when I talked about Bisek coming on for Pavard, I was a little perplexed. But I think Bisek impacted the match. The hype that when he came on, set pieces were much more dangerous. He hit the bar. Thuram hit the bar. De Vrij, off of kind of a recycled set piece, Bisek sent the ball in. So I think he was a sub that actually made an impact. And then Zalewski, his touches were not great, was dribbling out of bounds, not doing the best of stuff, but he had that layoff assist for the goal. So 2 subs that impacted. The rest kind of really didn't do much. No change of formation. And Inzaghi, another thing I read, he has to find a plan B. The static live and die by the 3-5-2. It's good until it's not. And we saw today that example. You got to be able to adapt and change something. That I'm not entirely sure. I'll have to rewatch the game and see what maybe we should have changed into. Just initial thoughts, like I said earlier. I think Zielinski should have came in and played higher up the pitch, where Mkhitaryan, instead of that regista role. And I don't know. It's something that Inzaghi has to figure out as a manager of the highest quality. Milan's 5-3-2, or it became the 5-4-1 towards the end, was too much for us. We had no midfield creativity to break it down. Another kind of with that Inzaghi has to find plan B. Draw is okay, but it's not great. It's not the end of the season. Napoli still have a tough road ahead. They got Roma here in a minute. Might have already started. They got Lazio at the end of the month, then us. I think that's back-to-back matches, Lazio, then us. So, and I think Lazio play them before they play us in the Copa. I could be wrong. But if Lazio play them first and then us in the Copa, that's beneficial to us. But not all is lost. I know it feels rough right now, but still there's a window, a beacon of hope. We got Fiorentina next 2 times, and then Juve away, Genoa. We got to win all 4 of these league matches in the rest of February. And then we need Roma today, Dai Roma, Udinese, Lazio, and Como. That is the February for Napoli. So still a lot to play for. Luckily, we don't have the Champions League play-in games for the playoffs. Um, having next week or Fiorentina coming up is going to be tough. That was a battle, a draining derby. These guys need to respond. We'll see. It's interesting where we're at right now. It's this part of the season where every game is big. Like I mentioned last podcast, I was pumped up for the match. Now I'm a little down now, but hey, got to move forward and play the next match and collect all 3 points. Don't forget about the derby. Um, yeah, guys, I appreciate all the support. Uh, Sent out some stickers this week if anybody wants stickers. Still got some. Be more than happy to send some to you guys. Like I said, I'd love to see some Pazza Podcast stickers out there. Shout out to my boy Vince. He was on the TV with Interclub DC after the match. He was back there during the interview, so shout out to Vince. He's got a Pazza Podcast sticker, and yeah, really appreciate the support. If you guys have any comments, if you guys have any ideas on what Inzaghi could have done differently, maybe changing formation against Milan, it's going to be very similar. I feel like match here upcoming against Juve. So what's some ideas you guys might have for what Inzaghi can do as a plan B or doing something different to impact the match? We're starting to get healthy. Acerbi was back on the bench, so he's going to have the squad at his full disposal. And yeah, no excuses moving forward. Like I said, guys, comment, give some insight, talking points. Would love to communicate, debate, argue, whatever. Have a good interaction. And I appreciate all the support, guys. As always, Forza Inter.